Happy New Year, and I say that sarcastically. It's about 8:30, January 1st, 2024. Had no idea I'd make it this long. This is a year I'm not looking forward to at all. We had two barely warm days. Both are days that a native Texan would still probably wear a light jacket, windbreaker, something like that, especially yesterday. One night that was warm until about, or relatively warm until about 4 o'clock in the morning when 20 to 30 mile an hour winds hit, bringing the wind chill to around 35. That was me. That's when I unwrapped the blanket that I was so ungrateful for. Remember? Me, the Kent, the ungrateful bum? Remember me? Motherfucker. Just lit the son bitch. I'm getting to it. Just hang on a fucking second. Hold your horses. So about 4:30 this morning, remember that whole big old brightly colored, gaudy colored bag of Christmas goodies with the red and white tissues on top so you couldn't see what's in it? That was full of fucking Frankenfood and worn out old shirts that were the cotton. You know, I love cotton, but not knit cotton because knit cotton gets rough after a while. Every one of those shirts that were anywhere close to wearable, uh, still really not, because I still don't have a functioning arm there. It's still takes at least a 3XL to 4XL to be able to get it over my head and get my arm into it. I have to do it kind of yoga style. But remember that nice gray blanket that was in there all rolled up and everything? Well, I unrolled it about 4:30 this morning, wrapped it around my head and shoulders, and you can't really see it that good, maybe, but it was just one big giant ball of fucking lint. That's why they wasn't selling on the market. They were, yeah, they sold them, but they probably sold them for 25 cents a pop. You know, really. Recycled polyester lint. It's already falling. Instantly, with one smooth move, they made me look like a filthy bum. Seriously, you can't really see it that good, but I'm fucking covered with lint. Gray fucking lint against a dark background. Just makes me look like I've been under the cheapest blankets on earth, which they are. Nobody would buy that shit. You would never put it in your house because the minute you spotted all that lint, it would be in the fucking dumpster, headed for the landfill. And yet they give it to me. And I'm supposed to be grateful for getting covered with lint, which now I have to spend money, cash money, to go to the laundromat to wash that shit off. Or what am I going to do? Buy 10 lint rollers? And every time I use the blanket, I'm going to pull out a fresh lint roller and run it all over my body, which, by the way, one arm don't work. So that kind of cuts out me doing the right side of my body. And it's already been 2024 in Australia for at least a day or so. So good morning to Chaos Comerford and all my friends in Australia. And England, it's already time for the luncheon, time for the big meal of the day. Although an English breakfast is huge, and I don't eat breakfast. People are slowly kind of learning that shit. And it's fucking cold. It really is. But that's kind of normal for the first day of the Gentile year here in the. I get really irritated with that calendar. I really do. That's the most. Whoever came up with that Gregorian, Julian calendar, I think it's Gregorian, or you're one fucking retard and a half. Taking 13 lunar months and turning them into 12 botched up 28 days, 30 days, 31 days. What a crock of shit. You know, may have already mentioned that I am entitled to food stamps, and they actually tried to call me a while back once I had a new number, but when you call that number back, it doesn't exist. That's how the government's been operating since COVID. Is that and even the medical people all use central numbers. Yeah, they're free to call you and bug you and shit, but you can't get them back except going through this intricate maze of bullshit. And that's what I see for the year ahead. This is my New Year's Day predictions. This is going to be one of the worst years in American history. We got the Ukraine thing, which is still going on. Occasionally, some of that shit slips through my filter. Yeah, like the other day, like Russia sent in like 32 missiles and whacked them. And shit, that's still going on for the benefit of the military-industrial complex. You know, one movie starts off, it's called Why We Fight, giving only part of what Ike Eisenhower said about this industry that in America employs 3.5 million people. They didn't really finish his full warning because a lot of his full warning wasn't in that kinescoped, filmed, and broadcast address. Actually, I remember that address. My memory starts at 6 months of age. My visual memory. The auditory kicks in shortly thereafter. But even then, auditory is selective. It's the same way as you rarely hear things in your dreams, but you see things. But this year, we got, 100 assholes running for office. The next logical step, since the Democrats have the power, this is just quick political analysis here. Since this country is still full of Trump worshipers who are going to refuse to vote logically for somebody like maybe Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, who's already having trouble. Since the far, far left in this country has got the upper hand in their political machine, it looked like it'd be a shoe-in for Camel Toe Harris because she's young enough. She's definitely black enough. And I hear gives great fellatio. So I don't see where the problem is with who's going to be elected. It looks like Camel Toe is a shoe-in. There's really almost nobody on the horizon. There's one guy that gets good press, but he has zero name recognition. DeSantis has got. So the main point I want to make, though, is that during this election year, those of us in need in this country, except for the military-industrial complex-related farm, industries, we're going to just get crapped on. All the people in their offices are going to be grumping and whining and griping and trying to get sure that their people, the Democrats, get elected. Please bear in mind that almost all civil servants in this country are Democrats. You can always count on the civil service union for them on voting Democrat. That's a huge block. They're the largest employer in the country. If you fucking Trump worshipers don't remind you one more time that 12 million people like me lease their land in this country for the production of oil and gas, the most essential uh, commodity in this entire economy that y'all want cheaply. Y'all got cheaply under Trump because Trump destroyed us. And 12 million of us, and Trump lost by how many votes? 12 million. Is it just me, this Jew boy, being able to do the arithmetic? Or how many didn't even turn up to vote? 12 million. Actually, it was worse than that. But this is probably going to be one of the worst, especially for those of us on the streets. And you can't believe, let me give a, fuck that shit, I'll just get a fresh one. Oh, the moon is lovely. The sun will, in the next couple hours, will bring it up to a nice, warm, frosty 54 degrees. Between that and the wind chill, it's going to be a bitch of a day. You think I wasn't angry yesterday? You think that the person who invited me to dinner and didn't contact me until 7:30 at night, that's 2 hours after dark. You think that phone number is still in my phone? You think that phone number isn't blocked? When I was younger, I was more forgiving, but I'm not young anymore. And at age 70, you wasted the last warm afternoon of the year 2023 on me when I had other shit I could be doing. And I could have certainly, except for the wind, could have certainly been arranging warmer bedding, sewing it together. I've got all I've got all the needles and I got the monofilament. And so, yeah, that's not going to happen. There was talk of me becoming a consultant to some kind of legal medical marijuana dispensary thing or shit. That ain't going to happen. No, it's I'm in a pretty good mood though, because in the mornings that's usually when my pain level is the lowest. I am both a morning person and a night person. And it's kind of hard to do because sometimes I'm in the morning mode and sometimes I'm in the I'll stay up all night and howl mode. Actually, I do like in Texas during the summer and stuff when the heat of the day is past to maybe nap in it. Well, I only about maybe 8 years ago began developing the ability to take a nap during the day, during the afternoon, or any time other than some sleeping at night or sleeping during my kind of designated sleep period. I've had problems with, actually, I've just had, like many people, I've never had much need for sleep and then became a profound insomniac under PTSD and other shit like that. Cass Comfort, if you're watching, maybe I'll make a video of some of a lot of my scars, though. Actually, most of my small scars have just faded. Over so many decades, between all the sun tanning and they'll just eventually kind of fade into nothingness if you're a good healer and stuff. The only thing that's left is kind of the more recent scars or the really humongous scars. So Cass was having some problem with his shoulder the other morning. And Cass, you don't have to worry if it's on that side too much. It's the other side. Maybe I'll make a video all about vasospasm sometime. Anyway, this is really shaping up to be a real shitty year. It really is. It's like I said, especially for those of us who are kind of just everywhere I look is that fucking gray lint. Thanks for your generous Christmas gifts of worn out, rough. You know, I'm wearing actually a synthetic. I used to, but like I said, I don't like cotton knit. It pills up and gets rough real quickly. And now cotton broadcloth, I think is the term. That's fine. That shit wears and lasts forever. Or cotton canvas, but cotton broadcloth, I think is the term. That's what it was, either cotton broadcloth shirts or silk shirts is what I wore most of my adult life. Love silk, and at one point in time, the Chinese were dumping silk shirts on the market for super cheap. You can get good, high quality silk shirts, even satin silk. Yeah, I've worn satin silk. When you're real comfortable about your sexuality, you can get away with shit like that. You know, yeah, they're a bit shiny, but damn, they feel good. And women can't keep their hands off of satin silk, polished silk. You know, you could make cotton look just like polished cotton is fucking, what do they call that, sateen, or I don't know. All I know is it's just really, right now, if you're out on the streets, I'm going to have to make another attempt because of extremely high prices. I have an ancient food stamp card that Mr. Obama insists I take, and that was when they had no swearing at the bottom. Anybody could commit fraud, and people were just really raping the food stamp program. You know, anybody had any brains could see that at the bottom there was no oath. Without that oath, there is no 25-year perjury charge. You could have put anything on there and gotten the maximum. I'm sure many people did, if not most. And, you know, they bugged me. They sent me a letter like every month for years under Obama, until finally I just said, yeah, fill it out, whatever the fuck, send it in, just to stop the letters. You know, it took me a long time to get, I've always had to fight against all the junk mail. I had to train first one carrier. I told him just throw the shit on the ground right by the box. You know, I'll break some shit over it and let it mulch in or whatever, but don't put it in my fucking box unless it's first class pre-sort with my real full name on it. Then they started figuring out how to use my real name and use first class pre-sort standard to get it into my box. But no, I went paperless with my bank. Been trying to tell Social Security to stop sending me shit in the mail because it ends up, you know, one time somebody stole a Social Security letter with my, you know, my name, my date of birth, and my Social Security number in it. They stole it. It was gone for days. And when they returned it, they did a bad job of gluing the, you know, because that stuff is originally kind of machine pressed in there and neat. And when they put it back in, you could tell it had been unfolded, photocopied, and badly glued back together. A little less than professional. Dumbasses didn't even know you need to, like, put it inside of a book and then put a cinder block on top of the book for a few days. Actually, that's the point at which I called my bank and said, we're going paperless. That was many years ago. But yeah, I just want to thank you again. Thank you for that wonderful fucking blanket. You good Christian people. You had no idea. They had no idea that it was just a big ball of lint held together by a plastic wrapper. That when you unrolled it, it just fucking lint everywhere. Lint up my nose, lint in my eyes, Lint all over every fucking thing I own. Yeah, that's what I can use on the. Yeah, I can put it on the ground over there to keep my shoes from picking up mud. I would prefer that it be like black, but what the hell? I'm sitting in the only kind of minimal wind area anywhere around here. There's one spot right over there, and there's one little tiny spot in front of the clinic, and that's it. Unless you want to get right in front of a fucking business, and they're not going to like that. Although I do have the owner's. That's what's tripping me out is that's his car, but I didn't see him inside. I'm beginning to wonder about his relationship with the female, whether it's his daughter or wife, or he's probably certainly rich enough to afford a wife that's 30 years or more younger. I can't tell his age. I really can't, but I got a feeling he's as old as me, but he's in good shape because he's basically done that. He's been on the non-heavy lifting end of life. And here they come. They always like to back in so they can tear out. I got my battery charging on the other side of the building. I already lost one 20 amp hour battery, which is critical if I decide to travel. But you know what? They're saying it's going to rain tomorrow. So I got to decide. I do need to, because I definitely want to get actually yesterday after, while I got time here, I'm at 22 minutes. That's what really pissed me off was yesterday afternoon. I was sitting there and I was going like, well, it's 30-mile-an-hour winds right here in this alleyway because it runs north-south, and it was southwesterly winds. And so it's being funneled from all them buildings and big giant buildings and Walmart and shit right down this street, right to that tree. Keeps it warm in summertime. I mean, it keeps it cool in summertime, but yesterday afternoon, while I was waiting on a certain party to contact me and tell me when to come to dinner, I already had the address which no longer is in my phone. My problem is I have a tendency to remember shit like that. Once I see it or write it down, I rarely forget it. But yesterday afternoon, I'm going, motherfucker, got my hair trimming kits right there beside me. I need to get up and trim my head hair, so that I look presentable in the doctor's office. And I need to do a good shave too before I go, because see, failure to do that lack of grooming indicates that you're depressed. And I don't need to have that hanging over my head, because a doctor can on their own move to have you, for your own protection, essentially locked up in a nursing home or somewhere else, some other facility. But it only takes them one phone call to get a court order to do that. Actually, any doctor can exercise their PIOC rights to incarcerate somebody in a mental facility. That's why I'm saying hair's got to be neatly trimmed, and most of my face is going to be shaven and the hair will be trimmed, because actually that's in a famous movie. I think it's about the life of Betty Hudson, where she was so depressed for so long, and then towards the end of the movie, she finally gets out of bed and she goes to her, it's called a vanity or dressing, or it's, my mom was actually given one of those at one point in her life, and she didn't know what to do with it because it wasn't my mother's style to sit on a little chair in front of a giant, like, oval mirror with all those drawers full of shit, and a lower part in the middle for all the cosmetics and shit. So it ended up in my room. But Betty Hudson, I believe that was an actress portraying, finally gets out of bed and goes over the mirror and slowly begins to brush her hair. Grooming oneself after a depressive period is one of the first signs that they're coming out of it. A lot of young people think that life is simple. They got it all figured out. It's all about the money. It's all about this, or it's all about that. And and Israelis are bad people. Jews are bad people. They stole Palestinian land and shit. And well, some of it we have because they're not fucking doing nothing with it. They're there in the West Bank, which we had already conquered, and yet Moshe Dayan and shit like just goes like, okay, you can still have it, you know. Moshe Dayan was a badass motherfucker, but you know what? He was not a racist person. He had, you know, he even tried, as I recall, to let the Palestinians move freely and shit, and then all they started doing was like fucking, you know, escalate the fucking problem. But here we go into the Gentile year, and we got people. It's amazing how much shit that YouTube, the AI tests me every now and then to see if I'm going to block those channels that clearly are in support of Hamas. Oh yeah, they're going to get blocked. Do not recommend channel. Boom, boom, boom. We got the Israelis. They're already going to have to now deal with thousands of permanently disabled soldiers. And shit, a lot of them are reservists. Actually, every male. The only ones exempt are the ultra-Orthodox. They're the only ones exempt from military service. I don't know why that should be. The Ukraine thing's still going on. The military-industrial complex is still in complete control of everything. And they're even having doubts about the economic surge that they were able to maintain here in Texas. I caught a piece of something the other day saying that we're not so sure about the numbers now, whether it's really as good as we said it was last year. It's really got to hit sooner or later. Some massive stagflation's got to happen. It's cessation of the conflicts will definitely trigger stagflation because, you know, Ike Eisenhower's day, it was 3.5 million people directly involved in the production of, and it's going to probably get worse. I mean, it's already, you know, I mean, it's probably what, 8 to 10, 12, 15 million people. If you include the digital end of it, probably 20 million people directly employed in the military industrial complex. So please bear in mind now, at this point in time, it's been 11 months as of today since my arm was broken in a grand mal seizure. That arm saved my brain. The subdural hematoma was right here. I hit a curb. I was on a crushed granite, Texas pink granite. It's actually a mix that they use around here for for pervious ground cover. They lay down that black cloth and they put this mixture of pretty much all the junk they can find, the leftovers from the granite business. I guess that's out around Marble Falls. And we sold a lot of marble to a lot of granite to Singapore, I know, during its building boom. Those trucks were rolling day and night down the Port of Houston. And you'll find around here you'll find this commercial mix that they sell to all over. And if you look closely enough, you'll see that there's everything in there from ground up, the limestone tarmac to glass. It's usually safety glass, but it's still crunched up, ground up to where there's sliver. And that granite produces a lot of sharp points. You really don't want to walk on it barefoot if you're a tenderfoot. 31 minutes, I don't really give a shit because it was kind of frosty. Traversing the way the 500 feet or more from the clinic to around here, pick up a cup of coffee, get my ass planted here. I'm about to have my second cup of coffee. And but that's my predictions for this next year, is that there's no telling who's going to end up in the White House. Doesn't really matter because the military industrial complex is probably going to add on a third. They need at least one more conflict to really keep their people employed, and got to keep having them drones destroyed, and then got to keep expending those artillery shells and missiles and shit. You got to keep up consumption to justify continued production and the milking of the few people that are still stupid enough to pay their taxes. I haven't filed in 4 years. Don't really technically have to. Well, technically I have to, but I don't have any taxes that are owed. Then the idiots will try to give me an earned income credit. That's how stupid one of my heroes before I go here, a lot of people is all angry at him and shit like that. I'm going like, you go, motherfucker. You can look up the article. Austin Regional IRS, I think, serves about 5 states. And even a lot of times when I was living in California, I would still file with the Austin Regional Office because part of my tax returns would be tied to Texas. And it was just, I was used to doing that. And one day a guy who was absolutely fucking just had it with the fucking stupidity, because the IRS is, by and large part, a bunch of dumb motherfuckers. And I may have told you the story of my friend Charles, who was a black dude, alcoholic. They made him a special agent because they know that he wasn't a CPA. And he hated white people. All they had to do was just sick him on some rich white person that they didn't like, some Republican or something like that, and he would shred them. He would find, and if necessary, generate. He told me himself it's one of the reasons he was such a heavy drinker, was that he was became an alcoholic, was that he was just fucking sometimes just making shit up just to fuck people over. But one of my heroes, all-time heroes, was a guy who I think he actually took off from like Georgetown or something like that. And he lined it up. And the IRS regional building, which is on the other side of 35 and Ben White, 2171. He should have thought about it a little bit more and like really loaded that plane up with 5-gallon gas cans and shit like that. Maybe a couple of, or made up some ANFO, that's ammonium nitrate fuel oil mixes to go in, but He fucking flew that plane right into the fucking IRS building, regional building in Austin, Texas, where they don't even bother to notice that there are 30 people who have no U.S. birth certificates or any naturalization and citizenship papers filing tax returns on and having in their correct name, but using sometimes somebody else or some just made up TIN number, tax ID number. There was one case where there was 30 of them living in and primarily just living off of committing tax fraud. Not on a grand scale, but a big enough scale to live the whole year off of, 30 names. Not sure how many people actually in the house, but he was one of my heroes. He flew that plane right into that building, and just love him for that. That's somebody. Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Next month it'll be Gung Hai Fa Choi. So that's kind of one of my Austin heroes, is a man who's absolutely sick of all that shit. And obviously been fucked over by the IRS. See, they didn't talk about him much because they didn't want the people to know that he had a good solid reason to fly. I don't know whether it's his plane or a rented plane, but he flew right into the fucking IRS regional building. They're east of 35 and north of 2171. Just boom. It's only about a 2-story building anyway, 3 at most. Just right into the side of it. I don't think he killed anybody, but he fucking got the message through to them that we the people are. I still don't believe they had to make it legal, but I'm still just in favor of a flat consumption tax, with those of us at the bottom being exempt from, they may be able to collect that tax from us at the time, but they have to give it back to us at the end of the year, plus interest. But there should be, because of the high probability of there being and I'm going like 37 minutes here, high probability of there being a fake ID market. It would actually be best to let that person keep that money in their own hands or pocket, but an 18 or 20% just complete, that'd be all state, local, and federal taxes at once, one shot upon consumption. That's, to a poor man, it's measurable and stuff like that, but at least that'd be a form of savings. They'd have something every year where they have, at least a third party's accumulate enough money for them to buy a vehicle or to rent a space, or for the home. That's what I will end with here, is that Austin regularly publishes the figure of only 4,000 homeless in Austin city limits. By my personal count, being able to remember faces very well, having gotten around Austin quite a bit, the actual number that you can see that are living outdoors, and not just, if you count in people that are doing what we call sofa surfing, it gets bigger. But my count, going all around Austin, is at least 40,000 homeless people living outdoors in Austin. And probably another 40,000 that are just sofa surfing, usually probably gay, and just, shacking up with no real address, no leases that they have their name on. So that's it. I don't have any great hopes in this coming year. As a matter of fact, I expect for things to get worse, much worse, and very quickly, because I'm no longer tolerant to cold. I have no idea how I survived my first winter in Austin. It was brutal, and I don't think I have that kind of strength left after 30 fucking years. Later.